Hopefully everyone's having Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful day and excited for this. I'm excited to be back. My name is Laura. I'm with the Nomadic Network, and I have been virtually hosting these kind of since the inception. So I'm excited to be back here today. I'm hosting Annie's presentation. I'm a travel advisor, travel blogger, and you can find me at Travel 80 by 80. So before we get into our fun presentation with Annie, I'm going to go ahead and quickly share my screen so we can talk through everything that is going on with the Nomadic Network. And then let me just make sure that I have everyone admitted. It looks like we're good. Okay, so real quick, let me share. Okay, so the Nomadic Network, hopefully all of you are aware of what this is what we are here today. It's short for, TNN is short for the Nomadic Network, and it's a community of travelers who are inspiring each other to see the world. So it was founded a few years ago by Nomadic Matt, but today it has been lovingly taken over by Lisa Field, who's on the call with us today. And I'm so happy to see it back in its glory days. And this is what it's all about, getting everyone together to just to learn and to communicate and travel with each other. So we have already hosted over 250 virtual events. If you want more information, which I'm sure you already know, you can find us at thenomadicnetwork.com. And a lot of our tour dates are already live, so definitely check them out. I'll share a little bit more about that at the end of the call. But we have them to exciting places such as India and Vietnam and lots of different amazing places. So if you want to find more information about that, you can always follow us on Instagram at the Nomadic Network, our TNN YouTube channel. You can register for our virtual events, which you obviously already know how to do since you are here today. And then obviously you can travel with us on our community tours. So then just a couple quick reminders for today and for this particular presentation. So it's always fun when you turn your videos on. I see a lot of your faces, so that's awesome. It's just makes it fun for all of us. But I am going to make sure that everyone stays muted just so we can hear our speaker, Annie, today. And then, but definitely use the chat box. I know everyone loves to communicate in our group. So if use that to comment, do whatever you want in that. And then if you have a question, if you can just write the word question first before you write out your question, and then that way I can keep track and I'll get that answered at the end of the presentation. And then make sure you follow Annie and then any of these other calls you're on and really support our speakers because they're volunteers. They're doing this out of the love and kindness of their hearts, and they just want to share their passion of what their experience with travel is with all of you. So let's learn, let's have some fun. And we're going to get started. So I have the pleasure of introducing Annie Sisson. So she's a travel planner, a writer, an educator, and a consultant for indie travelers. She is amazing at creating bucket list adventures while saving money and basically teaching others how to do it. And then over the last 15 years, she has been living her travel dreams probably for far less than most people spend for the same type of experiences. And that's why she's here today to share with us all about that. When she isn't writing, planning trips, or traveling herself, you can find her in the forest near Olympia, Washington, or sometimes in Utah as well. So Annie, I will let you take it on over from here and share with us all of your wisdom.
Well, hi. Okay, this is so great. I'm so excited to see all these faces. It has been a minute since we have done one of these kinds of presentations. So it's exciting to be back here with the Nomadic Network and see all of you. So thank you, first of all, for taking time out of your day, morning, evening, whatever it is, where you are in the world to be here with us. Okay, I have a lot of information to share with you, so I'm just gonna get to it. Yeah, be sure I'm gonna try and jam pack all of this because I want to give you as much as I can. So be sure to drop those questions as you have them into the chat so Laura can get them, and then we can. Sorry, I'm just fixing the view on my screen here. So then I can hopefully answer all of them, that we've got time to get to everything. So this is all about value travel. So my thing is finding the balance between saving money and also having the experience you really want. So let's get into it. So when you leave today, what I hope that you're going to walk away with is knowing what I mean by value travel, what it is, and how you can use this method for planning your own trips, how to decide your priorities before you start planning so that you can save some money, ways to create your ideal experience without breaking the bank and spending all of your money. We're going to talk about some ways to save on the essential parts of a trip. And then I'm going to share some of my favorite resources for maximizing your time and money. Sound like a plan? Great. I see. Okay. A little bit about me for those of you I don't know. I do see some familiar faces here, but we call ourselves multi-potentialites. I am a multi-passionate person. I have a whole bunch of different interests and things that I do. And I love helping my fellow multi-passionate people get clear on what they want, explore more possibilities, discover, their unique path in life, business, travel, all of the things. Home is soon to be Olympia, Washington. We are in the process of moving. Indie travel is my area of expertise. And what I mean by indie travel is where you're planning it yourself, right? We're not talking about big bus tours, cruise ships, all-inclusive resorts. This is you're doing the planning, the booking, all of that. And my specialty is European destinations. So feel free, ask all the things. And so part of what I do is I do travel planning for indie travelers, whether they want just information on a destination or whether they want somebody to help them put together the details, that sort of thing. I do personal and business coaching. I do different sorts of writing and storytelling. And then I also do SEO, content strategy, building websites, all of that. So I meant it when I said I do a lot of different things. Okay, so now let's talk about value travel. So what is this? So we've heard of budget travel, we've heard of luxury travel, and value travel is somewhere in between. It's not just about finding the cheapest thing, it's about creating your ideal experience. So how we think about this is that a trip, any travel experience that you want to put together, is we're going to make a container out of the time and money we have to spend, right? These are the parameters of our trip. And so our job is to find a way to fit all of the essential things into that container. So, we're talking about flights, accommodations, sightseeing, food, transportation, all of that. We've got this box of time and money, this container, and we're going to find a way. And so sometimes we spend more on one element because that's important to us, and then we find ways to save on the other things. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about these different essential elements that we need to fit into our container of time and money. And we're going to talk about some of the different factors that you can consider when you're thinking about these to save money. If it's not something that's super important to your ideal experience, then you can save more money there. If it's something that's really important, then we will talk about how you can kind of do that in a way that makes sense and keep everything in that container that you've got. So first things first, when it comes to this, the most important part is before you even start researching and trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together, we have to get clear on what is most important to you. So that means how much time do you have to spend? How much money do you have to spend? So we need to establish kind of the parameters of this container. And then I want you to really think about what is your ideal experience, right? Like most of us, when we are traveling, this isn't just necessarily random. Usually we've chosen a place based on an experience we want to have, an idea of what it's like to be there or what we want to do while we're there. And so I want you to really like take a minute and think about what is this experience. So if you are choosing, like, let's say a beach vacation in Thailand, like think about what is it you want. Are you looking for like lazy days sitting by the water, or are you wanting something more active? Are you looking for cultural experiences? What is it that you imagine doing with your time while you're there? And so once you have a clear idea of your experience, then make a list of like, what are the absolute essentials to making that experience reality, right? So if you are looking for something like we're just going to use this example, a beach vacation, right? So then one of the priorities is probably an accommodation near the water, right? So like maybe that's an important part of this experience for you. So just taking the time to get really clear on what are your absolute must-haves, and also on the other side, the will not do. Like I have my limits. There are some things I'm just not. We're not doing that. So just getting really clear on those, and then you're ready to start creating and researching and putting those pieces of the puzzle together. Cool. All right. Next, these are the essentials we're going to talk about. So got your time and money. So things we need to figure out. Flights. I mean, we're not always flying, getting there. However, that is that you're going to get there, where you're going to stay. We all have to eat, how you're going to get around, the different activities that you want to do. And then we'll talk a little bit about some optional expenses to consider. But so these are the main pieces of the puzzle that we're going to need to fit into that container. So let's start with flights. Oh, just kidding. We're going to talk about this first. We're going to talk about ways to save before you book, and then we're going to talk about flights. So things to think about before you do even start researching is like, when are you going to go? Is there an ideal season? Obviously we can always save money when we are traveling outside of the primary tourist season. And then also, depending on the reason that you're going, that can vary. Like if you want that beach vacation, you may not want to go during rainy season, right? So just thinking about those things. When can you go that is not the main tourist season, but also will give you the ideal experience? So you can save some money that way. Also think about different events that are happening. This is a picture of Oktoberfest. So like if you want to go to Munich, great. Like, of course, fall is like the off season. Oh, except for Oktoberfest, where things get crazy. But maybe you want to go specifically for Oktoberfest. So then factoring in, okay, that's going to mean some things are more expensive. So just thinking about what events are happening in the destination, or are you traveling for an event, and how is that going to factor into that time and money situation? Think about local holidays. So, are there going to be school vacations happening at that time? Like in the winter, are schools going to be out for ski breaks, and then accommodations are going to be higher. So just doing a little bit of preliminary research to see kind of what's happening in your destination at that time. And then flexibility. The more flexible you can be, the more you can save. I think many of us have had that experience where, yep, if you can spend 2 days getting to your destination, yeah, you can get those flights for really cheap. But sometimes that's not always an option. So keeping that in mind. And now we're going to talk about flights. Okay. I have so many things to say about this, but I'm going to just try and keep it real concise. So factors for flights, things that are going to make the difference in the cost is travel time, convenience, and comfort, right? So like I said, if you've got 2 days to spend getting to your destination, yep, you can save a lot because you're going to have an 8-hour layover in some place. And so, it's not particularly convenient, or it's not the fastest, so you can save some money. Same with convenience. You want to take that 5 a.m. flight? I mean, no, I do not want to get out of bed at 2:30 in the morning. But if I could save like $400 or $500, maybe I will do that. So, convenience, that makes a big difference. And then comfort. There's, obviously first class is more expensive than economy for a reason. It is a much more pleasant experience, but you definitely pay for it. So like for me personally, flights are a necessary evil to get to the place. As much as I don't love, being crammed into economy, I want to save the money for other things once I get there. For other people, that's not the case. They really want that comfortable flight. Great. But just know that is going to take a chunk of the money that you've got for this experience. And like if you have a traditional day job where you have a limited amount of vacation time, maybe you're willing to pay a little more for that faster flight so that you have more time to spend in the destination. But so these are the things to think about as you are doing your research and thinking about what's really important for that ideal experience of yours. I always start my planning with flights. I can build around cheap flights. So once I kind of think of those as like the bookends of the trip. Okay, I know. And I mean, some of you may have the freedom to just like, I'm buying one flight and then I will figure out the rest from there. Great. I'm jealous. But for those of us who have to kind of have a more finite, that we have more limited time, that the flights get to be the bookends. Okay. And then everything is, we can build within that. I always like to search for a month at a time. I mean, I know like Skyscanner, and I think Google Flights does this too, that you can even search for like the cheapest time of year and it will tell you what month that is. But I like to search for a month at a time and just see kind of what the fluctuation is from one day to the next, which is often wildly surprising how much flight prices can differ from one day to the next. Other things to always consider is a nearby airport. So last summer I took my niece to Europe for 2 months, and one of the things, we were flying from Toronto and flying to London. It was much cheaper to fly into Gatwick than Heathrow. Great. Both are accessible. So just if you can search for the city and not just one specific airport. So keeping that in mind as well. And then getting to the cheapest hub. Like often crossing the ocean is the most expensive part. So if you can just, once you're in that part of the world, usually you can hop around for much cheaper. So for that same thing, like we ended up flying, even though our first destination was actually Greece, it was like $500-600 cheaper per person to fly into London than it was to go all the way to Athens. And so great. Well, we got to London and then it was a very cheap flight from London to Athens. So that's what I mean about like getting to the cheapest hub. And sometimes you can build a couple extra days in and see another place and get to have some additional experience there. And then one-way flights. One-way flights allows you to book with different airlines instead of always looking, at one airline for a round trip. I have many a times pieced a whole trip together with one-way flights. So those are just some general things to keep in mind when you are thinking about flights and what's important, and then some ways to save. Next up, let's talk about accommodations. So we have such a wide variety of options, and this is one of those that everyone has a very different comfort level as far as what they want in an accommodation. So kind of your main factors to think about as you're deciding what's best for your experience that affect price, location, amenities, and privacy, right? Usually, like if you're going somewhere, a location right in the middle of everything is going to be more expensive than something that's maybe a 20-minute train ride out. And so you have to think, how important is that does it matter if you're right in the middle of everything, or are you okay with a little bit of a commute into the center? Same thing with amenities, usually, right? Like if you want a place with a pool and a spa and all of this, it's going to be a little more expensive or a lot more expensive. And then privacy. And, like even if you are simply willing to share a bathroom, the price can drop dramatically. And for some people, that is an absolute non-negotiable, that like, nope, I want my own room with my own bathroom. Great. There is nothing wrong with that. But just knowing that you might end up paying a little bit more, but you might be able to get that for the same price if you're a little bit further out. So again, just keeping like, these are the three things that are going to be like the sliding scale that really affect the price of where you're staying. Thinking about some non-traditional options, if you are a nature lover like myself, and depending on where you're going, camping can be like, it's super cheap, but that can be a really interesting and fun way to experience a destination too. There's also things like I've seen, houseboats that you can stay on, or different things like that. So thinking about some non-traditional options. I know I have never personally couch surfed, but I know that is a thing that has worked well for a lot of people. So being able to filter your search results based on what's most important to you. Booking.com is always my go-to, or Hostel World, but that you can make those selections so that you're really only seeing the things that fit into your budget, into those most important factors for you. Staying outside the center, especially cities like, I mean, European cities especially, but a lot of the larger metropolitan areas in the world have good public transportation that allow you to stay outside the center to save some money. And then, that $3 metro ride into the city, I mean, and you're saving 50, 60, $100 a night. So think about that. And then also weekdays versus weekends, depending on the time of year and the location, that can make a difference. If you're able to travel midweek, you can save some, those kinds of things. And then private rooms with shared spaces. I am a huge fan of private rooms in a hostel because I still get all of the amenities of, like, I have a kitchen and a refrigerator and, like a hangout area. But then I still have the privacy of my own room, my own space where I can just chill, that sort of thing. So things to keep in mind and ways to save for accommodations. And now let's talk about transportation. So the main factors to consider here: travel time, comfort, and convenience. So my favorite example of this was I was in Amsterdam and wanted to go to Bruges, Belgium. And I was looking at bus and train. So the travel time was about 30 minutes difference between the bus and the train. Comfort, if you have taken buses or trains in Europe, the comfort is very comparable. And the convenience, like the bus station was actually, I think, really at the train station or nearby. So that was fine. But the price was like 30 euros difference between the bus and, like, I think I paid 15 euros for the bus. And so it was one of those things where it's like, I don't care. I just want to get to the place. It's only going to take me an extra half an hour. If I take the bus, great. I will take that extra 30 euro and have myself a lovely dinner or something like that. So just looking at that, we're going to go through resources at the end, but one of my favorites is Rome to Rio, because it will show you the different options to get from one place to another, and it will give you an idea of prices too. So that's super helpful. Also considering how you want to get around your destination. If you're going to a city, great. Hopefully they have good public transportation and you can do that. Taxis add up quickly. But if that's important to you, that you don't want to figure out a new metro system, but just making sure that, okay, if I'm willing to then spend a little more for private transportation, and how that's going to fit into your overall container of time and money. Ride shares are another option from getting from one destination to another, where you can basically hitch a ride with somebody who lists where they're going. Bus, train, rental car, sometimes rental car is just the way if you want to get really off the beaten path and see some unique places, that a rental car is the way to do that. And that's going to be a little more expensive. So you factor that in. Okay. Like, hopefully you are getting all of this, because I want to make sure I leave time for questions. Sightseeing, right? Usually when we go to a place, we want to see it. We want to do some of the things and visit the museums or, botanical gardens or whatever it is, which often costs money. So things to consider: popularity, time, and whether you can go on your own or whether you need to go with a tour group or want to go with like a local group. Popularity, I'm just going to refer to this trip again because it's the thing that is in my brain. So we're in London. My niece obviously wants to go to the Tower of London. So it's one of those things where I'm like, there's throngs of people. So we're going to get up early and go, so that our ideal experience is not fighting with a giant crowd to see the things that we want to see. So it's like, okay, so the sacrifice is we're going to get up early and we're going to get there so that we get to have our ideal experience. And then, if it's a place I'm really interested in and want to know more about, if there is an option for me to spend a few dollars and take a tour for somebody to tell me about it, I might want to do that. Often I love a good audio guide, or a lot of places have really well done information throughout, but these are things to consider that will change can change the price. Like there are many attractions that like before a certain time of day, it's actually cheaper. Great. I will get out of bed and go go early. Other places to check for discounts and savings, the tourist information offices often, I mean, they're just a wealth of information for all sorts of things, but they can also tell you about, any discounts that are happening, that sort of thing. I'm a big fan of the sightseeing passes. If you are going to like a bigger city, a metropolitan area, and you're going to see a lot of the typical things, but what I love about the sightseeing passes is they often include a lot of really random off the beaten path things that you may not otherwise consider, but they're included. So you're like, yeah, okay, let's check it out. And it ends up being a delightful experience. So, like, I know City Pass is one of them. But if you're going to one of the larger cities, look for sightseeing passes because it can save quite a lot of money. Discounts it for like students, seniors, different groups can get discounts. Sometimes, depending on if, like where you are, uh, there might be a group discount. Like I know in Rome, you can sometimes like hop in with a bigger tour group that basically gets you in quicker and then you just like do your own thing. Um, so there are those walking tours. I'm always a huge fan of a free walking tour. It's a great way to get really a high level overview of your destination. And a lot of times the guides know, the secrets for saving some money or where to go that's off the beaten path, that sort of thing. And then there's always a ton of different free activities. I mean, people watching costs nothing and can be highly entertaining, depending on where you are. And even just wandering, like I swear, just walking from one place to the next. If I've got a couple things I want to do in a day, you stumble upon the most delightful things, and that costs $0 and is also, stuff you may not otherwise have known about or get to. Um, so that is the brain dump on sightseeing. And now food. This is one of the most important things for me when I travel. Like I am here for the eating. Um, it's my favorite way to like explore a new culture. This is my like non-negotiable. I am not going on a trip and eating, like canned soup every day. Not happening. So how do I do this without spending all of my money? So I love a good picnic, a lot of places, depending on obviously the time of year that you're visiting. I love checking out the like local markets and picking up local ingredients, find a place, picnic in the park or even in your room, whatever. But that's a great way to save money, but also get a chance to try some local flavors. Cooking on your own, see about recreating some recipes, the internet at your fingertips. What things can you make if you are into cooking? I would rather have somebody do that for me, but I'm here for all picnics. Street food, great way to get local flavors and not spend a bunch of money. I'm also a big fan of a food hall, which I think is becoming more and more popular. It's great for the vendors because they don't have to pay for a whole restaurant. And you can sample a lot of different things. Usually they're very, very affordable compared to a sit down meal. And if you want to go to a restaurant, I'm always go at lunch. Often the menus are exactly the same, maybe slightly smaller portions. That's fine, but usually less expensive. So you can still eat very well, get all the local flavors. And I'm always a fan of a food tour that like, again, that's one of the things for me that like, yep, that is a chunk of money I will designate for that. And so I will save money on my accommodations because I don't really care that much about, if I've got somewhere to shower, sleep, and store my things that's clean and safe, I'm good. And so then that gives me more money to spend on food. So again, it's these are the trade-offs, and there's no one right way. This is very much about what is the most important to you and creating that ideal experience. Other expenses to think about as you are, filling that bucket of time and money, travel insurance. if you are someone who collects certain things on your travels or whatever, but making sure you set aside, that you budget for that in that container. Um, any local tours or experiences you want to do, and planning for unexpected costs. I try to leave kind of a little bucket for the extra things, because at least in my experience, when you get to a place, like I can do all the planning, but then when I get there, I'll talk to people and I'll hear about something that I didn't know about before, and that, okay, now I really want to do that. But then if I haven't planned or left some kind of flexible money in there, that might be problematic. So I always like to just kind of have give yourself a little reserve of, this is money that's not spoken for, and if you don't use it, then one of our favorite things to do in travel is to do a splash out meal at the end. That, like, our last night on a trip or in a place is like, okay, we're just gonna go all out, have an incredible meal, and really just like one last hurrah. So that is an option too. Okay, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing all right. Resources, my favorites. Skyscanner, it's still my favorite. I know Google Flights is great, but I don't know. What I love the most about Skyscanner, that at least last time I looked at Google Flights, you still couldn't do, is to search from one country to another country. That was not available. Like, if I want to fly from the United States somewhere and fly to the UK, like, there are so many different airports in there. And one of the things I love about Skyscanner is that it will give me so many of those options, so that I can see, the airports that are closest to me and the ones that are closest to where I really want to go. And it gives me all of that information much faster than, trying to piecemeal each search at a time. Flight deals. One that I love is Secret Flying. And that's not one I often hear people talk about. Like, we all know about Going / Scott's Cheap Flights, and, some of those larger ones that are popular. Secret Flying is, in my experience, has a lot of the same stuff as those other ones, and it's free. Like, you don't have to join a thing. You can set up alerts for certain airports, certain destinations, all sorts of things. I think Secret Flying, I once booked I didn't end up getting to take the trip, but I think I got flights from Toronto to Lima for like $300, like insanity. So, those are very helpful. For accommodations, booking.com, Hostel World, those are my go-tos. Vrbo, I mean, a lot of places outside the US, like for your own apartment, a lot of them list on Booking, instead of Airbnb or whatever. So Booking usually has all of the things: hostels, B&Bs, traditional hotels, all in one place. So I love that. Experiences, I'm a fan of Get Your Guide. I've done some really fun, tours and local experiences through there. And that's been a really nice one, because they're all, day trips. They're all just shorter day things, or, even just a couple hours. But they're always run by, it's like local tour operators that post their things on there. And there's a lot of fun things. Transportation, I mentioned earlier, Rome to Rio gives you kind of all of the different ways you can get from one place to another, and estimated prices, so you can really see what the difference is. Rideshare BlaBlaCar is one. I have not ever used it. I know a few people who have, and that has been a good experience, where it's basically like, let's say you're in the UK and somebody's going from London to York, and you can just basically buy a seat in their car, like they're going anyway. It gives them a little bit of money, and you get a much cheaper ride than you might otherwise have. Rental cars, Kayak is still what I use for search. Turo is also one here in the US. I have not ever really, well, I know it also is in Canada. I'm not sure if that is international or not, but basically individuals rent out their cars. make sure and read the fine print because some of them come with stipulations for miles or whatever, but it's often much cheaper than a typical rental car also. Okay. Okay, we're gonna have plenty of time for questions. I think that's all of the resources. And now here's just some things for you. So places to connect. I'm working on a new website. I had hoped to have it finished by today. Surprise, it is not because life. Um, Instagram, Explorer Annie. I am not a super regular social media poster, but when I do, that's where it is. My current travel blog, you can find it intothebold.com. All of that is going to be moving to the new site, but it's not there yet. So, and then email, you're welcome to send me an email anytime, Annie@explorerannie.com. So I've got a few special offers for you. I think, Laura, you might have the links. You can drop them in the chat. So if you want a copy of these slides, feel free to subscribe. It's just, yep, explorerannie.com/value travel event. Very simple. I have also would love to give you a free 30-minute exploration session. You can use this to talk about an upcoming trip. We can talk about all the things travel, a specific destination, or even if you want like help brainstorming where to go next, putting together an itinerary, that sort of thing. If you've got other stuff, like if you're looking at a big career change or a life change or whatever, and you just wanted, or starting a business, any of those things, you can use this 30 minutes for whatever you want. And then I'm also want to give you 50% off a 1-hour indie travel consultation. So this is, I mean, we spent an hour together. People in the past have used this. I've had people use this to get help kind of talking through their ideas for itineraries. I've had people use this to talk specifically about a destination and to get all of that info. It's basically your opportunity to pick my brain, and I will tell you all the things that I can. And if you don't want to talk about travel, that's fine. You can talk about something else. But so those are available for you. You can subscribe. And yeah, so that's what I'm getting up to. I've got indie travel guides. There's tons of travel planning stuff on the website that will be moving locations. Stories, there's some fun misadventures and that sort of thing. And then just lifestyle, this alternative way of being in the world, and all of that. So that is it. I'm going to stop sharing. And whew, and now I'm going to have some water because that was a whole lot of talking. Well,
You
Laura.
did it. Yeah, but it was amazing. And I don't know about everyone else, but now I'm motivated to travel. Not that I wasn't motivated to travel before, but you've made it seem very easy and just very clear on the steps to do it. So thank you. And on that note, I'd love to see where everyone is thinking about traveling next, whether you've had something planned or where you wish to go. Maybe just drop that in the chat box as well. And I did include Annie's information. Those are some amazing offers you have. So hopefully everyone can take advantage of that. You may turn into a therapist for some of us. Who knows if you're offering 30, 50-minute, but you can be the travel therapist, right? Great. I love seeing where everyone's going. These are some fantastic places. Okay, so we have quite a few questions. So I'm going to start asking those. And then if, as I'm going through, if anyone else on the call thinks of a question, again, just jot it down and we'll get that asked. Okay, so the first question is from the Nomadic Canadians. They're asking, is there any airline for you that does economy class best, like budget airline, larger? Just do you have any thoughts around that?
Budget airlines. Oh man, that is a dodgy. Y'all know if you've ever flown with Ryanair, things get dodgy. I think probably my best experience with the super budget airlines has been EasyJet in Europe. But I will tell you what my now favorite airline that was, I mean, it's not super budget, but man, it was so nice, was Aegean Airlines. We flew that from London to Athens and Athens to Paris, and we got snacks and it was super comfortable and it was amazing. So, I mean, it's not the cheapest budget, but the budget ones add up with all those extra fees depending on how you play it. So
that's true. Yeah, you kind of have to be smart about it. And then if you know what you're getting into, if you have to pay for water or food or whatever, well, you have to pay for food now everywhere, it seems like. But then, yeah, you go into it with that expectation and that's what you get out of it. So agreed. Okay, so Janet has a question about for one-way tickets. So I guess she did a trip where immigration wanted proof on the return home ticket and detained her. So there was a little bit of side chat going on about that. But any experience there? Or have you ever had that happen to you?
I have not had that happen, but that's because, I mean, I have not ever arrived in a place without having a ticket out to somewhere else. That, like, even if my ticket, like, even if I bought a one-way ticket in, I've had tickets that should be connected to my passport, to either go home if it's a different one-way ticket, or to on to the next destination. So I haven't had that, because I've not had the luxury of just like one-way ticket somewhere and not knowing where I was going next. So I have heard that that happens. It shouldn't if you've got another flight booked, because all of that should be attached to your passport number. So that's kind of strange.
Yeah, and I haven't had it either. Someone though, this was an interesting suggestion on booking. If you say you book two one ways, the second one way could be refundable, and then you get the money back as soon as you get through. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, you have to check the terms and conditions on that though, for sure. Or get travel insurance. Okay, so kind of along those lines on about flights. So we had a question about what are your thoughts about flying into one city and then leaving from another? For example, flying into London and then leaving from Paris. Have you done
Love it.
that? What do you think about that?
Yep, I'm a big fan because, I mean, depending on how much time you have, yeah, you want to see other parts. And that's where one-way flights can really come in handy, because depending on which airline you're flying into one destination, they may not have great options from leaving from a different destination. So that's where one-way flights have been very helpful for me. Like flying into, yeah, like London on like a British Airways, but then, Air France out of Paris or something like that. So yeah, I'm a fan of flying into one. And some airlines do, some of the bigger ones do have, and you can search for that open jaw ticket on there, or multi-city, I guess is what they call it now. Is that you can search on the website to see what they offer, but that's a great option, especially for one-way flights.
Yeah. And I think nowadays, I don't know if you think this, but I feel like before round trip flights used to be a lot more, not budget friendly, but a lot less expensive than booking two one ways. And now I feel like they're kind of more comparable. So for some routes, right? It just depends. But I think that's kind of interesting too. So it gives us more options also.
Totally. I have definitely seen that shift over the years, where it used to be like significantly less if you booked a round trip. And it does seem that, like, now it really is like it's about half. So you're really, it does give you a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, they just want us to travel all over the world, I guess, right? Leave one,
Great.
go into one and leave from another. I like it. Works for us. Okay, so we have another question from the Nomadic Canadians. Have you ever done city tours during a long layover somewhere?
I have never done like an organized city tour on a long layover, but I absolutely take advantage of a long layover. My first trip to Oslo was on a like 5 hour layover. I met some girl sitting across from me on the airplane, who was also, we were on our way to Amsterdam, and we were just like, yep, okay, let's go into the city. So we were besties for the day and figured out how to get ourselves into the city and wandered around for a couple of hours. I've never taken an actual like walking tour or something, but I'm a huge fan of a long layover, for an opportunity to go. I mean, same New York City, I had like a 12-hour layover. That was my first trip to New York, was walking my face off for 12 hours before I did the rest of the trip.
That's smart. Okay, so for Amsterdam, when you did that and then you went back through, were there any issues with leaving and then returning back to the airport, going through customs, or was it pretty straightforward?
No, it was fine. I just planned enough time. Like the one in New York, there was even a luggage check in the airport that I could just like, I paid $20 or whatever for them to hold my bag. Uh, Took the train into the city and just made sure that I knew how much time I would need to go back through security and customs and all of that. Um, and it was fine. Nobody ever gave me any grief about it. So
Okay, that's perfect. And I think there's some, we haven't done it either, but I think there are some cities or countries where they actually have it organized through the airlines where you can do it. So it just depends on where you're going. But yeah, I think if you have 8 hours or 12 hours and it's a budget flight, yeah, why not go explore someplace? I think it makes sense. Um, let's see if there's any other questions, let me know, put them in. I don't think I've missed any, but I had a question actually. So I was curious, what's the most unique place that you've stayed, or maybe the most budget friendly accommodation? And maybe those don't go hand in hand.
the most budget friendly is literally my tent. Like,
Yeah.
uh, yep. I did a whole 6 week trip around the Balkans, and uh, the first three, I mean, like once I got to Bosnia, it was the camping was the same price as the hostel. So I got to sleep in a real bed. But yeah, for the first part of that trip, I don't think I spent more than like $10 for a campsite.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And it was wonderful. I got to see some really beautiful places that, I maybe not would not have otherwise. I'm trying to think of the most unique.
And there was no problem bringing the equipment with you?
No, the only tricky bit with that is that I did have to check a bag.
Mhm.
I'm a fan of carry on only, but if I'm taking my camping gear, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I'm going to pay for a check bag, and like fingers crossed that it makes it there. But the amount of money I save on accommodation is well worth the difference in paying for the bag. Um, so there's that. I'm trying to think of what is the most unique place I've ever stayed.
It's hard. Someone just wrote the most unique accommodation they've stayed in, a tree house in Southern Oregon. I've heard about that.
I
I wanted
want
to
a
go there.
treehouse.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
treehouse, please.
I've stayed in a sort of tree house. I don't know if it really was a tree house. It was a half tree house, but I know the one in Oregon should be pretty cool. But yeah, I agree. I think the camping, that's a great way. It's a great way to do it. And especially if you're in and out and you're going and touring everywhere, why not spend the least amount of money you can on the accommodation?
Yeah, I mean, I am a nature lover. I grew up camping, like that's very much a comfortable situation for me, but I get that that is not everyone's cup of tea. Uh, I will continue to think about the most unique. I'm like, I can't, nothing comes to mind, so we can carry on if something comes to me.
I
We'll
put you on the
circle
spot
back.
for sure. It's hard. It's definitely hard. I think I actually covered every question,
Oh, cool.
but I think we're good. I am going to just send or put in the chat box just different ways that everyone can connect with the Nomadic Network. I've already shared with how to connect with Annie. And then this was amazing though, Annie. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today, and everyone else. And then I'm going to share my screen one more time so I can just give you a quick update on everything that's coming up with the Nomadic Network. So we have a couple events coming up in October. We have a virtual happy hour. If you haven't done one of those yet, it's a little bit different than what it's like today. This is kind of where everyone is off mute. We're just talking about a variety of topics. It's kind of like it's a virtual happy hour basically. So look forward to that on October 10th. Then we have two more presentations. We have one on the 17th, which is overcoming your travel fears. And then on the 24th, Depth Beyond Distance, Insights to Enrich Travel and Life. So those you can all find on the nomadicnetwork.com/events for more information. And then, as I mentioned, we have our community tours. We're going to some pretty amazing places: India, Vietnam, Greece, Peru, Morocco. There's definitely an opportunity for everyone on these tours. So if you want to go, definitely, again, look at our website on the tours portion and sign up. It would be really fun to see a lot of you there. That is it, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know myself, Annie, Lisa, we're so happy to have the Nomadic Network back here and getting to do these events again with everyone. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to support Annie and the Nomadic Network. And hopefully we'll see you all on the next call real soon, or the happy hour. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, friends. Have a great night.
Enjoy your evening or day wherever you
Yeah,
are.
right.
You know, people are all over the world. I saw that. It was very fun.